A simple woman trained her husband through school. He got a high-paying job, a mistress, and divorced her. She worked night shifts to pay his tuition, packed his lunches, edited his resumes, while raising their child alone. Then, just months after he got a six-figure job, he served her divorce papers and moved in with his coworker. But what he didn't expect was the comeback that made headlines. Maria never thought of herself as extraordinary. She called herself a simple woman, the type who didn't wear makeup every day, who clipped coupons, who showed up early, stayed late, and never asked for recognition. She believed in hard work, faith, and building a life one piece at a time. That's how she met Daniel in the campus library, both broke and focused. He was charming, idealistic, and driven. He told her about his dream of becoming an engineer, of one day pulling his mother out of poverty. He didn't have a job, a car, or even a reliable phone, but he had big dreams and a soft way of speaking. Maria was drawn in. Maybe because he reminded her of hope. Maybe because he saw her too. When she got pregnant during their final year of community college, Daniel panicked. But Maria didn't. She adjusted. She found night shifts. She kept going. Daniel swore he'd make it right, that he'd finish school, get a great job, and build the life she deserved. She believed him. Not because he was perfect, but because she loved him, and because she believed in what they could build. Maria worked as a cleaner at night and as a cashier during the day. When their daughter was born, she strapped her to her chest in a second-hand baby wrap and kept moving. Daniel couldn't work. He had labs, classes, internships. Maria covered the bills, cooked meals, printed his assignments when the student printers failed, and stayed up helping him rehearse interviews. She called it teamwork. "You're my backbone," he told her once. She smiled, kissed his forehead, and returned to folding laundry on their couch. When Daniel finally graduated with honors, Maria cried in the bleachers. She held their daughter on her lap, clapping until her hands were sore. That night, over instant noodles and a cupcake from the grocery store, he promised her things would finally change. And for a while, they did. He got his first real job 6 months later, an entry-level tech position that offered more money than Maria had ever seen on a single check. They moved out of their small apartment and into a modest condo on the edge of town. He bought a used car. Maria cut her hours and started dreaming again. She talked about going back to school, maybe starting a home bakery. Daniel seemed proud at first, grateful even. He bought her a gold necklace. He told their friends how she held everything down. He kissed her forehead before heading off to work. But the distance crept in slowly. First, it was the phone, always face down. Then it was the meetings that ran late, the weekend business trips, the "she's just a friend" text from his new manager. Maria asked questions, but not often. She didn't want to nag. She wanted to trust. "You're acting insecure," he said once when she asked if everything was okay. She stopped asking. But the loneliness crept in, deeper than before. Maria would tuck their daughter into bed, eat dinner alone, and stare at the clock until she fell asleep with the TV on. Her gut knew something was off. Her heart begged her not to believe it. Then one night, he came home late, soaking wet from the rain, but calm. He took off his shoes by the door, walked into the kitchen, and set an envelope on the table. "What's this?" she asked, wiping her hands on a towel. He didn't answer right away. She opened it. Legal words blurred together: terms, conditions, dissolution of marriage, divorce. She looked up. His eyes weren't angry. Just done. "There's someone else," he said. "I didn't mean for it to happen." Maria couldn't breathe. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. "I'm moving out," he added. "It's better this way. For all of us." He kissed their daughter's sleeping forehead and walked out. No fight. No guilt. Just silence. Maria collapsed into the chair and stared at the envelope until morning. The man she trained through school. The man she sacrificed everything for. The man she believed in more than herself, gone. He had a 6-figure salary now. A luxury apartment downtown. A new woman by his side who understood his world. All Maria had was a daughter who didn't know what was happening, a kitchen full of unpaid bills, and a heart so cracked it physically ached. But even in that moment, she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She stood up. She made breakfast. She walked her daughter to school. And when she got home, she looked at herself in the mirror for the first time in months. She was tired, but not broken. Because she remembered who she was before him. A simple woman. A backbone. The builder. The believer. And in that silence, she decided she wasn't done. Not even close. Maria stood at the edge of the crowd, holding her daughter tightly against her chest. The folding chair beneath her was metal, cold, and slightly tilted, but she didn't care. Her eyes were locked on the stage. Hundreds of graduates in dark gowns passed across the platform, their names called over the sound system that crackled with static. And then, Daniel Cortez, Bachelor of Engineering. She shot up to her feet. Her heart swelled. One arm clutched her baby, the other clapped wildly. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it. He looked up, saw her, smiled, and in that second, everything felt worth it. Every overnight shift, every missed meal, every job she'd taken so he could study. All of it culminated in that one name echoing over the loudspeakers and that moment when their eyes met. Later, while other families posed with balloons and flowers, Maria waited patiently under a tree with a grocery store bouquet in her hand. Daniel emerged from the crowd, cap slightly tilted, a smile stretched across his face. "You did it," she whispered, stepping into his arms. "You really did it." "No," he said, pulling back to look at her. "We did it." That night, they didn't go out to celebrate. They couldn't afford fancy dinners or champagne. Instead, Maria picked up a $5 pizza and a single red velvet cupcake. They sat cross-legged on their floor, no furniture yet, just a mattress in the bedroom and hand-me-down kitchenware in the cabinets. Their daughter gurgled in her bouncer, watching the flickering TV. Daniel took a bite of pizza and then looked at Maria. His face, usually so focused and reserved, softened. "I'll never forget what you did for me," he said. Maria tilted her head. "You worked 2 jobs, raised our daughter, and still believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," he continued. "I swear, Maria, when I make it, really make it, I'm going to give you the life you deserve." Her heart ached with joy. "I don't need luxury," she said. "I just want us to be together. Stable. Happy." He took her hand, nodded. "Then that's what we'll build." He kissed the back of her hand and then leaned his head on her shoulder. The city buzzed faintly outside, but inside their little apartment, the world stood still. In that moment, it felt like they were on the same team, like every sacrifice had purpose, and every hardship had made them stronger. Maria carried that moment with her like a talisman. Even when Daniel struggled to land interviews after graduation, even when he got rejected again and again, she reminded him of his promise. She reassured him through every doubt. When he landed a part-time job tutoring high school students, she cheered him on like he'd been named CEO. And finally, one rainy Thursday morning, the phone rang. He stepped outside to take the call. Maria stayed back with her daughter, folding laundry and praying under her breath. He returned with his mouth wide open. "I got it," he said, stunned. "An actual full-time offer. Junior design engineer. Benefits. Real pay. Real title." She squealed, hugged him, kissed him, cried. Their daughter clapped without knowing why. That evening, Daniel brought home takeout, real takeout, from a restaurant with white bags and metal tins. They didn't have a dining table yet, so they ate on the floor again. But this time, the future looked different. Daniel talked about his new office, his manager, the projects he'd be helping with. He told her how it felt to be called Mr. Cortez by the recruiter. She listened with her head on his shoulder, smiling at the way his eyes lit up. He looked alive. That night, he lay next to her in bed, still talking. "I'm going to make 6 figures one day," he said. "We'll get a real house. Maybe a second car. You won't have to work unless you want to." Maria smiled. "I'd love to start a bakery someday." "Do it," he said immediately. "Whatever you want." She turned to face him. "I want you to remember this moment. No matter how big life gets. No matter where we go, remember this." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I will. I promise." And for a while, it looked like he meant it. Maria began scaling back her shifts. She took on part-time work and used her extra hours to take care of their daughter and explore baking recipes. She made cakes for neighbors' birthdays, cookies for church fundraisers. She started sketching logo ideas for Simple Sweets, her dream bakery. Daniel encouraged her. He brought home cake pans and Pinterest ideas. On weekends, they'd take walks through neighborhoods, pointing at homes and saying, "Maybe that one day." He looked happier, stronger. He began dressing better, talking differently. Meetings, then more meetings. Dinners out with coworkers. Late nights, longer phone calls. Maria brushed it off. Growth, she told herself. This is growth. She didn't notice the emotional drift at first, not when it came 1 inch at a time. A forgotten hug, a rushed kiss, a new cologne. She was too busy holding down the emotional weight of the home, meals, errands, bills, daycare, to notice he was already halfway gone. And he still said all the right things. Love you. You're amazing. Thanks for dinner. It wasn't until months later, after everything had fallen apart, that Maria would look back on this period, this stretch of bliss, this fragile calm, and realize it had been the eye of the storm. But on that graduation night, on the night of the red velvet cupcake and the promise he made with tears in his eyes, she truly believed in him. She believed in the man who once cried in her lap after failing his midterms. The one who slept in borrowed hoodies and refused to quit. The man who told her, "You're my reason." And that was the tragedy. Because when he left, when he walked out for good, he didn't just break a marriage. He broke the version of herself that believed love and loyalty were enough. When Daniel left, Maria didn't cry right away. Not even when she watched him load his suitcases into the back of a car she helped him buy. Not when their daughter asked why Daddy wasn't coming home for dinner. Not when she stared at the empty side of the bed at 2 a.m. She didn't cry because there was no time. There were bills due, a child to feed, a kitchen to clean, and a silence so heavy she could barely breathe beneath it. The first few weeks were survival. Daniel had moved in with the other woman, his manager, the one Maria had once made banana bread for at the company picnic. He filed for divorce 3 weeks after leaving, citing irreconcilable differences. The irony made her laugh so hard it turned into a sob. He got a lawyer. A good one. He wanted joint custody but offered child support, based on fairness, not what he could actually afford. He had a 6-figure income now, but Maria still clipped coupons and checked her account before every grocery trip. She met with a legal aid volunteer at the library who told her, "You have a strong case. But it won't be easy." It never had been. At night, Maria baked. She didn't know why at first. Maybe to keep her hands busy. Maybe because the warmth of the oven filled the house in a way nothing else could. It started with cupcakes, then pies, then cookies in cellophane bags tied with string. She sold her first batch at the local barber shop. A dozen snickerdoodles in a recycled box. The owner handed her $10. "Best thing I've tasted in a year," he said. It was the smallest win, but it was hers. Maria doubled down. She pulled out her old notebook full of bakery ideas and wrote 3 words at the top in big, bold letters. Simple woman. Strong brand. It became her motto. She built a Facebook page. Posted every day. Set up at weekend farmers markets with a folding table and a second-hand sign. Her daughter helped her tape hand-drawn price tags to boxes. Each week, she sold more than the last. People started asking, "Where's your shop?" She smiled and said, "Someday." Maria didn't have a storefront or investors. She had a borrowed kitchen and a reputation that spread like powdered sugar. And still, Daniel barely checked in. He posted pictures with his new partner on social media, brunches, vacations, matching gym outfits. He wore tailored shirts now. His smile was different, calculated. The warmth she once knew had been replaced with performance. One day, she got a call from his assistant. "Daniel would like to revisit custody terms," she said. Maria asked why. The woman hesitated. "Well, he's planning to move. His new partner got a promotion." Maria looked at her daughter playing quietly on the rug. Then she smiled, sharp and steady. "I think we'll let the court decide that." The fight was brutal. Daniel's lawyer came hard. Called her unstable. Claimed she was unfit due to her inconsistent business income. Maria brought every receipt, every invoice, every customer review. She stood in court with trembling hands, but her voice didn't break. "I may not earn as much as he does," she said, "but I raised this child. I trained that man through college. I built the foundation under his entire life. And I won't be erased just because he found something shinier." The judge ruled in her favor. She walked out of court not just with full custody, but with clarity. Daniel had taken her years, her energy, her loyalty, but he couldn't take her future. And that future was rising. A viral post changed everything. A customer posted a video of Maria giving free cupcakes to kids at the farmer's market with a caption, "Support this amazing single mom who bakes her heart into everything." It racked up hundreds of thousands of views. Orders exploded. Interviews followed. A local morning show invited her to share her story. She wore her simplest dress, brought her signature cinnamon rolls, and told the world exactly who she was. "I'm just a simple woman," she said into the camera. "I sacrificed for someone who forgot me the minute he succeeded. But I don't regret it, because it taught me how to survive, and now how to thrive." The comments poured in. "You're the definition of strength. I cried watching this. I see my mother in you. Tell Netflix to call her." This is a movie. Her Facebook followers tripled overnight. A GoFundMe set up by a neighbor raised $20,000. A local business owner offered her a shared commercial kitchen. She said yes, and Simple Sweets by Maria finally became real. Maria worked 16-hour days again, but this time, for herself. This time, the exhaustion came with pride. Her daughter, now 6, helped label boxes and hand out flyers at school. One afternoon, she came home with a drawing that read, "My mommy is a boss." Maria framed it. One rainy afternoon, she saw Daniel at the grocery store. He looked older, worn in a way that money couldn't cover. His smile was polite. "Hello. I saw the bakery on the news," he said. "You've really made something." She nodded. "Yes, I have." He glanced at the ground. I never meant to hurt you." Maria tilted her head. "But you did." Silence. "I thought I needed more," he said finally. "I was your more," she said, then turned and walked away. That night, Maria stood alone in her new bakery. The walls smelled like sugar and cinnamon. The sign above the door glowed softly. Simple Sweets. She closed her eyes and breathed it in. Everything he tried to leave her with, loss, shame, betrayal, had become something beautiful. Because the truth was, he got the job. But she got the legacy. And in the end, it wasn't the degree or the money that made the story remarkable. It was the simple woman who sacrificed, got left behind, and still won. It started with a soft glow. A single neon light humming above the door. Simple Sweets. The lettering was hand-painted by a neighbor's teenage daughter, payment made in cookies and hugs. The smell of vanilla and warm cinnamon wafted through the air even before you stepped inside. It wasn't a big space, just 2 ovens, 3 display cases, and a counter, but for Maria, it might as well have been the Taj Mahal. Her bakery. Not Daniel's company. Not his cold modern apartment. Not anyone else's dream she had to support. This one was hers. The day she opened the doors, a line had already formed. Mostly women. Some single mothers. Some older, with grandkids. Some just curious, phone in hand, waiting to post their order. But they all came for one reason: they'd seen her story. And it meant something. One woman clutched Maria's hand tightly and whispered, "I stayed with my husband until he ran off with someone half my age. You reminded me I'm still someone." Maria smiled, hugged her. "You are. Don't ever forget that." The cash register dinged. The oven buzzed. And like that, the rhythm of her new life began. She worked harder than she ever had. Mornings started at 4 a.m., dough kneading, frosting prepping, labels printing. Her daughter came with her before school, tying her apron with a determined frown, always ready to hand out samples. Customers kept coming. Some for cupcakes. Others just to sit at the little table by the window and watch the world go by with a fresh muffin in hand. Maria gave people more than sugar. She gave them a space to breathe. Then came the write-up in the local business journal. The simple woman who baked her way back. Orders doubled. She had to hire help. First a high schooler after class, then a retired army wife who wanted something new to do. They became family. A team built on grit and quiet joy. Maria never forgot the nights she couldn't afford eggs, or the time she broke down in a grocery aisle because her daughter wanted cereal they couldn't buy. So every Friday, she left a box outside the shop labeled "Free for anyone who needs it." Cookies, breads, even birthday cupcakes for kids whose parents were struggling. She didn't ask questions. She just gave. Word got around. A news crew stopped by. Her story aired on a Sunday night segment called Heart of the City. And then came the call that stunned her. A national talk show. "We love what you're doing. We love your comeback. Would you be willing to fly in for an interview?" Maria laughed. "I've never even been on a plane." "Then let's make that your first." They flew her out first class. Paid for her hotel. Sent a stylist to her room. Maria sat under studio lights, dressed in soft cream and gold, looking every inch like the success story she was. The host leaned in during the segment. "You trained your ex-husband through college. He left when he started earning. You started a bakery from scratch. And now, you're inspiring millions. How does it feel?" Maria blinked back tears. "I thought he took everything when he left. But he didn't. He just gave me space to find what was mine all along." The applause was thunderous. Her inbox exploded. Emails. Messages. Partnerships. Women offering to franchise. Investors asking to meet. Maria didn't rush. She came back home, held her daughter tighter than ever, went back to her shop and stood barefoot behind the counter, grounded. She turned down 5 offers in the first month. I don't want this to get too big, she told her team. I don't want to lose what makes it special. Instead, she expanded one storefront over, added a coffee bar, set up a wall of Polaroids, customers, kids, stories. She called it the kindness wall. Every photo was captioned with one sentence, still standing. And she was. Daniel showed up again. It was bound to happen. He walked in one afternoon while Maria was piping rose frosting on a wedding cake. His suit was sharp, but his eyes were heavy. Didn't think I'd see your name on a billboard, he said. Maria didn't look up. You thought I'd disappear. I thought you'd fall apart. She smiled slightly. Still didn't look at him. I did. Then I got back up. He sighed. She left, by the way. My upgrade. Said I worked too much. Maria finally looked up. Her hands didn't stop moving. The piping stayed smooth. You traded loyalty for a moment of excitement. And now you're surprised it didn't last. He had no answer. Why are you here, Daniel? I guess I just wanted to say, you were the better person. Always were. She shrugged. Maybe. But I didn't build this to be better than you. I built it to prove to myself that I could. He looked around at the clean walls, the humming ovens, the shelves lined with smiling photos. Is there room for forgiveness? Maria paused, then set the piping bag down. I forgave you a long time ago. That's how I got this far. But that doesn't mean I want you back in my life. He nodded slowly, then turned and walked out, past the line of customers, past the girl sweeping crumbs, past the banner above the door that read, baked with heart. Built from hurt. And Maria? She went back to the cake. Because the past no longer demanded her attention. The present did. And the present tasted sweet. They never expected her to rise. Not the classmates who once whispered about her wasting her future for a man. Not the in-laws who smiled tightly and said she was lucky he picked her. And definitely not Daniel, the husband she loved, supported, trained through school, only to watch him walk out with another woman when the money came in. Maria was always underestimated. That's how all great inspirational comeback stories begin, with someone no one saw coming. But this wasn't just her comeback. This was her arrival. And it was loud now. Her bakery, Simple Sweets, had become the heartbeat of the town. What started with cookies and cupcakes had evolved into a symbol of woman empowerment, a place where people gathered not just to eat, but to breathe again. The local news had called her the baker who rose from the ashes. Online headlines followed. Single mom builds bakery after heartbreaking divorce. Woman trains husband through school. He leaves, but she rises. From betrayal to breakthrough. One simple woman's success story. Maria didn't set out to be a headline, but she had set out to survive. And survival, when done with grace and fire, becomes something beautiful. That month, she got an invitation to speak at a local college entrepreneurship event. She almost declined. Public speaking made her palms sweat. But her daughter looked up at her from across the bakery counter and said, "Mommy, they want to hear your story?" Maria nodded. "Then you should tell them. It's the best one ever." So she said yes. When she stood on that stage in front of 300 young women, some with babies on their laps, some with backpacks, some with tears already forming, Maria began not with her success, but with her heartbreak. I trained a man through school, sacrificed my years and dreams to help build his. And the minute he succeeded, he left. The room went still. And for a moment, I thought that was my ending. But I was wrong. That betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my breakthrough. She told them how she baked through the pain, how she found a way to turn her kitchen into a brand, how she refused to be defined by the one who walked away. "I'm a simple woman," she said into the mic, voice steady. But don't ever mistake simplicity for weakness. The applause that followed was long, and loud, and healing. Later that week, her story trended again. Hashtag simple woman strong heart. Hashtag from heartbreak to bakery. Hashtag single mother success. And then came the next surprise. A major frozen foods company, known for nationwide grocery distribution, sent her an email. "We love your story. Would you be interested in discussing a possible line of frozen desserts under your brand?" Maria stared at the screen for a full minute before exhaling. Frozen pies with her name on the box? She took the meeting, flew to New York in a borrowed coat, sat in a conference room with people in tailored suits, and smiled as they explained logistics, supply chains, licensing fees. She said only one thing: "I will never sign away the soul of this story." They offered a deal that let her retain full creative control. A portion of profits would go toward a fund supporting single mothers launching businesses. Maria signed. When she came home, The bakery was buzzing. Her team greeted her with balloons. Her daughter ran into her arms yelling, "CEO Mama's back." Maria laughed, hugged her girl, looked around at the space she built from grief. "Let's make room for a freezer," she said. The frozen line launched 3 months later. Vanilla bean cinnamon rolls, strawberry pie with honey crust, chocolate bread pudding. Each box carried her story in brief. Created by a simple woman who turned heartbreak into hope, one recipe at a time. Sales boomed. Reviews poured in. Stores sold out. And yet, every morning, Maria still opened the shop herself. Still greeted customers by name. Still handed out free cupcakes to crying kids. Because while the world saw her as a symbol of resilience, she still just saw herself as a mother. A woman who refused to give up. Then came the letter. A handwritten note, dropped off by someone at the front desk. It was from Daniel's mother. "Maria, I don't know if you'll read this, but I had to write. I was wrong about you. I judged you before I ever knew you. And I supported my son even when I saw him hurting you. Watching you rise with so much grace has taught me more than I ever expected. You didn't just build a business. You built a legacy, one I wish my son had deserved. Thank you for showing all of us what a real woman looks like. Forgive me, Marjorie." Maria folded the letter slowly. Tears stung her eyes. She didn't know if forgiveness came easy, but she knew healing was worth more than holding grudges. And she had healed. That weekend, Maria held a special event at the bakery. Women Who Rise. She invited speakers, local moms, entrepreneurs, even a high school teacher who once fought homelessness. They told their stories, shared their pain and power, and Maria ended the night with a simple truth. If you've ever been left, betrayed, forgotten, if you've ever trained someone to fly, only for them to fly away without you, know this: you're not empty. You're not finished. You are full of fire. And your next chapter might just be the best one yet. They gave her a standing ovation. Someone in the back yelled, "Netflix better call you." Maria just laughed, because her life didn't need a movie deal. It already was one. A real one. Messy, beautiful, powerful, and above all, inspirational. Maria's story had reached the world. No longer just a quiet figure in the background of someone else's life, Maria. The simple woman who trained her husband through school, only to be left for a mistress when he got a high-paying job, was now a name synonymous with inspiration and triumph. Her bakery empire flourished across 8 states, and her nonprofit, Kindness Kitchen, was changing lives for single mothers and abandoned wives. But her real triumph wasn't in dollars. It was in legacy. At the largest women in business summit in the country, Maria stepped onto the stage. The applause was deafening. Cameras rolled, news outlets live-streamed, and social media hashtags lit up. Hashtag Simple Woman Strong Heart, hashtag Divorce to Destiny, hashtag Trained Him in School, hashtag He Got the Job, She Built the Empire. "I was called naive," Maria began. "I trained a man through school, sacrificed for his dreams while mine collected dust. He got a high-paying job, found a mistress, and divorced me. But I didn't crumble. I created." The audience rose. Chants of Maria. Maria echoed. It was more than a keynote speech. It was a movement. Maria's TED Talk, released just weeks earlier, had already crossed 50 million views. The title said it all. He got the degree. I got the destiny. It wasn't just trending, it was transforming the conversation around betrayal, divorce, and the financial injustice many women silently endured. Influencers, authors, and business coaches referenced her journey as the blueprint for turning pain into purpose. News platforms ran features like, "The Simple Woman Story That's Dominating Google Trends." Maria's Rise, a modern divorce inspiration tale. Trained her husband through school, got divorced, and then made millions. Maria didn't ride the wave. She was the wave. But behind every trending headline was a truth she carried in her heart. Her story wasn't a PR stunt, it was lived. She remembered standing at a pawn shop with her daughter, trading in her wedding ring to buy baking supplies. She remembered the court papers, the loneliness, the humiliation. And she remembered the moment it all changed, the viral video where she said, "I won't apologize for rising. I won't apologize for surviving." That sentence became the slogan of her growing brand. Even Hollywood took notice. A docuseries was greenlit by a major streaming service. Title? Simple Woman, The Maria Story. It followed her from the betrayal to the boardroom. From baking pies in a borrowed kitchen to advising international women's organizations. Maria didn't need revenge. She had receipts. She had results. SEO Powerline, inspired by real divorce trends and women empowerment. Her story struck a chord particularly because it mirrored headlines like State Senator Angela Paxton files for divorce from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. The internet was flooded with real-life versions of Maria's story, and Maria represented hope for the women Googling phrases like, "How to recover after divorce? Trained husband through school, now he left me? Wife helps husband succeed and he cheats. Divorce comeback stories." Each search brought them to her. Her foundation, Simple Women Rise, became one of the fastest-growing digital support communities in the country. With over 2 million members, it offered tools, mentorships, financial literacy workshops, and business training. Maria launched partnerships with women-focused banks, career coaches, and therapists. Her motto? You can rebuild your life. Not someday. Today. In the audience that day at the summit was a girl named Jasmine, 23, from Detroit. She had been abandoned by her fiancé when she was pregnant. She watched Maria's videos from a shelter. 6 months later, she opened a catering company. She flew herself to the event just to see Maria live. When they met, she cried, "You gave me a blueprint. I didn't think I could do it. Now I know I can." Maria hugged her. Because that was the victory. Not the headlines. Not the brand deals. But the lives quietly shifting behind closed screens. The final email, from the man who left. One afternoon, Maria's assistant handed her an envelope. "Daniel." A short email printed and folded neatly. "Maria, I saw everything. Your talk. Your business. Your heart. I was wrong. I didn't see it then. I was too weak to support your strength. I lost a queen while chasing approval from peasants. You didn't just rise. You flew. I'm proud of you. And ashamed of myself." Maria didn't respond. She didn't need to. She smiled, folded the paper, framed it, hung it in her bakery, right between the oven and the Employee of the Month wall. A reminder, what people abandon can still bloom. Maria's story didn't end with vindication, it began there. She announced her next venture, a business accelerator for single moms in rural areas. With backing from major investors, it would provide seed funding and mentorship. She toured campuses, high schools, and women's prisons, giving speeches titled, "They left me, but I took the lessons and built a legacy." By now, even politicians had asked her to speak about economic justice for divorced women. Maria stood where very few do, not just healed, but honored, not just powerful, but peaceful. As Maria walked off stage that day, her daughter by her side, cameras followed. The outro for the YouTube documentary rolled. She was just a simple woman once. She trained a man through school, only to be betrayed. Left behind while he chased success with someone new. But she didn't crumble. She created. She didn't cry forever. She claimed her place. From the ashes of betrayal, she built an empire. And now, she helps others do the same. She is Maria, the woman who rose. Like, share, subscribe to Ximon Stories for the brave, the betrayed, and the beautifully rebuilt.